Who the hell did this to you? Through her one good eye, Rachel Marlowe watched Vincenzo Moretti's face transform from stone to something she'd never seen before. Broken. Human. Please, she whispered, blood mixing with tears on her swollen cheek. Just leave it alone. Leave it alone. His voice dropped to something lethal, his fingertips hovering inches from her bruised jaw like he was afraid she might shatter. Someone put their hands on you. Someone touched what's mine. I'm not yours, Vincenzo. No. He stepped closer, and she could smell his cologne mixing with gunpowder and expensive whiskey. 3 months you've been serving me coffee every morning. 3 months I've watched you smile at everyone but me. 3 months I've been telling myself I don't deserve to want you. But right now, looking at what they did to you, I realize I was wrong about one thing. Her breath caught. What? I don't deserve you. But whoever did this, they deserve me. Hey there, my wonderful friend. How's your day going? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this story so far. Drop a comment and tell me where you're watching from. Rachel's legs gave out, and Vincenzo caught her before she hit the floor. For a man who'd ordered executions without flinching, his hands were impossibly gentle as they cradled her broken body. It was Tony, she finally admitted, the name falling like a death sentence from her bloodied lips. My ex. He found out I've been hiding from him here. Found out about the money I've been saving to disappear. Vincenzo's jaw clenched. Antonio Tony Castellano. Small-time dealer who thought dating a waitress 3 years ago gave him ownership papers. He said if I tried to leave the city, he'd find me. Said he'd do worse next time. Rachel's voice cracked. There's always a next time with him. No, Vincenzo said quietly, pulling out his phone with one hand while the other stayed steady on her waist. There won't be. She grabbed his wrist. You can't. If something happens to him, the cops will know it was you. Everyone knows you come here. Everyone knows you. What? That I watch you. That I've memorized how you take exactly 4 seconds to pour cream in my coffee. That I know you hum that song, what's it called? Blue Moon, when you think no one's listening. Her good eye widened. You noticed all that. I notice everything about you, Rachel. The way you count your tips twice. Always paranoid you miscounted. The way you give free pie to that homeless veteran every Thursday. The way you've been looking over your shoulder for the past 2 weeks, terrified of shadows. His thumb traced the air near her cheek, still not quite touching. I should have acted then. Should have known. The back door creaked, and Marco Vincenzo's right hand appeared. His expression darkened at the sight of Rachel's face. Boss! Find Tony Castellano, Vincenzo said. His voice devoid of emotion now. Find everyone who knew what he was doing and said nothing. Find everyone who heard her scream tonight and didn't help. Vincenzo, no, Rachel pleaded. He finally touched her then, the gentlest brush of his thumb wiping away a tear. They touched an angel. They made an angel bleed. There's no forgiveness for that. Not in my world. Not in any world. 3 hours later, Rachel sat in Vincenzo's penthouse, a place she'd only heard about in whispers. The doctor he'd called, an elderly man who asked no questions, had just finished stitching the cut above her eyebrow. The ribs are bruised, not broken, the doctor said, packing his bag. She needs rest. Real rest. Not the kind where she's looking over her shoulder. After he left, Vincenzo poured 2 glasses of whiskey. His white shirt now stained with her blood from when he'd carried her up 30 floors, refusing to let his men touch her. I can't stay here, Rachel said, though the soft leather couch felt like heaven compared to her lumpy studio mattress. Because you're afraid of me. Because I'm not afraid of you. That's the problem. She took a sip, the alcohol burning her split lip. Everyone in this city knows who you are, what you do. But when you look at me like that. Like what? Like I matter. Like I'm not just another broken waitress with $60 in her savings account and a past that won't let go. Vincenzo sat beside her, close enough that she could feel his warmth but not touching. You want to know what I see when I look at you. She nodded, unable to speak. I see the woman who remembers that Mr. Rebecca takes his eggs over easy. Who knows Mrs. Patterson's husband died on a Tuesday, so she always gets sad on Tuesdays, and you always give her extra cream for her coffee. I see someone who fights every day just to survive, and still finds energy to be kind. He paused. I see someone who makes a monster like me want to be better. You're not a monster. No. Ask the families of the men I've buried. Ask the businesses I've burned. Ask anyone who's crossed me what I am. His phone buzzed. Marco's name flashed on the screen. We found him, Marco's voice carried through the speaker. Tony and 7 of his crew. They're at the warehouse on Pier 47. Drunk. Celebrating. Rachel's stomach turned. Celebrating what? Vincenzo's eyes darkened. Doesn't matter anymore. He stood buttoning his jacket. Marco, prepare the room. I'll be there in 20. Please, Rachel grabbed his hand. If you do this, you're no better than him. I'm not trying to be better than him. I'm trying to make sure he never hurts you again. And what happens when the cops come? When his friends want revenge? You're starting a war over a nobody. He knelt in front of her, taking her face gently in his hands. You're not a nobody. You're everything. And wars have been started over less. The door opened and a woman walked in. Tall, elegant, with platinum blonde hair and eyes like ice. Vivian Moretti, Vincenzo's sister. So this is her, Vivian said, circling Rachel like a predator. The waitress my brother's about to burn the city down for. Vivian, Vincenzo warned. She's pretty. Or was before someone rearranged her face. Vivian poured herself a drink. You know what this means, don't you, brother? The commission won't approve. The families will see this as weakness. Let them. They'll come for her. Use her against you. She's a liability now. Rachel stood, swaying slightly. She is standing right here. And she didn't ask for any of this. Vivian studied her with sharp intelligence. No, you didn't. But you're in it now. My brother's made his choice, which means you don't get one anymore. You're either under our protection, or you're dead by sunrise. Tony's crew won't let this go, not once Vincenzo makes his move. Stop trying to scare her, Vincenzo snapped. I'm trying to prepare her. There's a difference. Vivian approached Rachel. You want to survive this. You stick to my brother like glue. You don't go anywhere alone. You don't trust anyone except who he tells you to trust. And you definitely don't go back to that restaurant. I need that job. It's all I have. Had, Vivian corrected. Past tense. Your old life ended the moment my brother decided you were worth protecting. Welcome to the family, honey. Hope you survive it. Vincenzo's phone rang again. This time his expression changed completely. What do you mean he's gone? He listened, his jaw tightening. All of them. How is that possible? He hung up, staring at Rachel with something like confusion. What happened? She asked. Tony and his crew. They're gone. Not dead. Asfin. Vanished from the warehouse. No signs of struggle. No blood. Nothing. Vivian frowned. That's impossible. Marco had eyes on all the exits. A new voice came from the doorway. Not all of them. They turned to see a man in an expensive suit, older than Vincenzo, with silver hair and knowing eyes. Rachel recognized him from the restaurant. He always sat in the corner booth, always alone, always watching. Mr. Rossi. Rachel gasped. You're her guardian angel, apparently, Vincenzo said slowly, pieces clicking together. You're the one who's been watching her. Not for Tony. For someone else. Rossi smiled. Hello, Rachel. Or should I say, Rachel DeMarco. Your father sends his regards. The room spun. Rachel's legs buckled, and this time when Vincenzo caught her, she could feel his hands trembling too. My father is dead, she whispered. He died when I was 3. No, my dear. Giovanni DeMarco is very much alive. And he's been waiting 24 years for it to be safe enough to bring his daughter home. Rachel's world tilted sideways. Giovanni DeMarco. The name echoed through the criminal underworld like a ghost story, a legend from before her time. The man who'd controlled half the eastern seaboard before vanishing 25 years ago, taking millions and leaving corpses in his wake. "You're lying," she breathed. "My mother told me he died in a car accident." Rossi pulled out a photograph, worn at the edges. A young woman holding a baby, standing next to a man with Rachel's exact eyes. "Your mother, God rest her soul, told you what Giovanni paid her to say. Keep you safe. To keep you hidden." Vincenzo's arm tightened around her waist. DeMarco has no children. That was always the story. The story he needed everyone to believe, Rossi said. When Giovanni's rivals discovered he had a daughter, they tried to use her as leverage. 3 attempts on her life before she turned 2. So he did the only thing a father could do. He made Rachel Marlowe disappear, gave his daughter to her mother, Anna, gave them new identities, and swore to stay away until every man who'd threatened his child was dead. "And are they?" Vivian asked, always the pragmatist. "Dead. 7 of the 8 families, yes. All these years, Giovanni's been working in the shadows, eliminating threats one by one. Which brings us to the 8th family." Rossi's expression hardened. "The Castellanos." The name hit like a bullet. "Wait," Rachel's voice shook. "Tony's last name is Castellano. You're saying Anthony Castellano Jr., son of Antonio Castellano Sr., head of the last family standing between your father and reuniting with you." Rossi sat down, suddenly looking older. "Tony didn't find you by accident, Rachel. He was sent to get close to you 3 years ago. To watch you, control you, make sure you stayed exactly where his father could see you." Vincenzo's entire body went rigid. "Bait. They've been using her as bait for DeMarco. For 24 years, Giovanni has been patient. But 6 months ago, Antonio Sr. made a mistake. He started asking questions about a waitress at Sal's diner. Started wondering why his son was so obsessed with keeping tabs on some nobody. That's when Giovanni reached out to me." Rossi looked at Vincenzo. "And I reached out to you." "What?" Rachel pulled away from Vincenzo, betrayal flooding through her. "You knew about this." "No," Vincenzo said firmly, but his eyes wouldn't meet hers. "Not all of it." "How much of it?" Silence. "How much, Vincenzo?" "I knew someone wanted me watching you, protecting you from a distance. I didn't know why. I didn't ask why." His voice cracked. "I just knew that every morning I needed to be in that diner, making sure you were safe." The room spun again. 3 months of coffee. 3 months of quiet glances. 3 months of her thinking maybe, just maybe, someone saw her for her. "So none of it was real," she said quietly. "You were just following orders." "That's not true." "Which part? The part where you were hired to babysit me, or the part where you made me believe you actually cared?" Vincenzo grabbed her shoulders, forcing her to look at him. "The first week was an assignment. I sat in that diner because Rossi asked. But the second week, the third, every week after, that was me, Rachel. That was me needing to see your smile, needing to hear you humming, needing to know you were alive and safe because somewhere along the way, you stopped being a job and started being my reason for waking up." Pretty words from a man who lies for a living. "I never lied to you. You just didn't tell me the truth." "That's the same thing." Vivian's phone buzzed. Then Rossi's. Then Vincenzo's. All at once. "Oh God," Vivian whispered, staring at her screen. "Turn on the news." Rossi grabbed the remote. The television flickered to life, showing a breaking news report. A warehouse fire on Pier 47. 8 bodies found inside, burned beyond recognition. "Authorities are investigating what appears to be a targeted attack," the reporter said. "Sources close to the investigation suggest the victims may be connected to the Castellano crime family." Tony's face flashed on screen. Confirmed dead. Rachel's knees gave out. Vincenzo caught her again, always catching her, but this time she fought against his grip. You did this, she sobbed. You killed them. I didn't, Vincenzo said, looking at Rossi. We didn't even get there yet. Rossi's phone rang. He answered, listened, then closed his eyes. Giovanni sends his regards. He says the men who hurt his daughter have been handled. He's ready to meet you now, Rachel. Tonight. No, I don't want any of this. I don't want a father who kills people. I don't want a mob boss pretending to care about me. I just want my life back. That life was never real, Vivian said, not unkindly. Your mother was paid $50,000 a year to keep you hidden. Your apartment, owned by one of DeMarco's shell companies. Your job at the diner. Sal's been on Giovanni's payroll since before you were born. Everything you thought was yours has been a carefully constructed lie to keep you breathing. The words landed like punches. Nothing was real. Nothing had ever been real. The Castellanos know by now, Rossi continued. Antonio Sr. will have heard about his son, about his men. He'll know Giovanni's making his move, which means he'll come for you with everything he has. You're the only leverage left. How long do we have? Vincenzo asked, already shifting into protection mode. Hours, maybe less. Giovanni wants her moved to his estate in the mountains. Fortified. Defensible. She's not going anywhere without me. Rossi smiled. He's counting on that. Giovanni knows his daughter's heart, even if she doesn't yet. He knows she's already chosen you. I haven't chosen anything, Rachel snapped. Haven't you? Rossi gestured to where her hand had unconsciously gripped Vincenzo's jacket. You're holding on to him like he's the only solid thing in a collapsing world. Because he is. Crash downstairs made them all freeze. Then gunfire. Screaming. They're here. Vivian pulled a gun from her purse. The Castellanos found us faster than we thought. Vincenzo pushed Rachel behind him. How many? More gunfire answered him. The windows exploded inward, glass raining down like deadly snow. Armed men in black tactical gear poured through, at least a dozen. Rachel Marlowe, a voice called out. An older man stepped through the smoke, distinguished and cold. Antonio Castellano Sr. Or should I say DeMarco? Come with me quietly, and your friends live. Resist, and I paint these walls with everyone you've ever cared about. Vincenzo's gun was already drawn, pointed at Antonio's head. You touch her, you die. Kill me, and my men kill all of you. But take me alive. Antonio smiled. I have a proposal. One I think Giovanni will find very interesting. I'm not interested in your proposals. Not even one that saves your precious waitress. You see, I don't want to kill Rachel. I want to trade her. Her life for Giovanni's surrender. He comes out of hiding, faces justice for what he's done, and his daughter gets to live whatever small life she wants. Free and clear. Rachel's mind raced. Her father, a man she'd never known, had killed dozens to protect her. And now he'd have to sacrifice himself to save her. Unless she made a different choice. I'll go with you, she said, stepping out from behind Vincenzo. No. Vincenzo grabbed her arm. Rachel, no. If it ends this, if it stops the killing, then yes. She looked at Antonio. But you let everyone here go. And you promise my father won't be harmed if he surrenders. Antonio's smile widened. You have my word. The word of a man who had his son beat me unconscious. She touched her swollen face. Forgive me if I need more than that. Smart girl. Like you. Shame you chose the wrong side. Antonio nodded to his men. New deal. You come willingly, and I let the women live. But Moretti, he dies. Right here. Right now. Payment for the years he's been a thorn in my operation. The room erupted. Vivian fired first, dropping 2 men before diving behind the bar. Rossi moved with surprising speed for his age, taking out another. Vincenzo shoved Rachel to the floor, his body covering hers as bullets tore through the air above them. "The bedroom," he shouted in her ear. "There's a panic room behind the closet. Code is your birthday. Go." "I don't know my real birthday. August 15th. Your father told Rossi. He's remembered every single one." Tears streamed down her face as Vincenzo hauled her up, firing behind them as they ran. They made it to the bedroom just as something hot and wrong slammed into his shoulder. Blood bloomed across his white shirt. "Vincenzo, I'm fine." "Oh, now." He shoved her toward the closet, turning back to hold the doorway. But Rachel didn't run. Instead, she grabbed the lamp from his nightstand, yanked the cord from the wall, and threw it at the first man who came through the door. It caught him in the face, stunning him long enough for Vincenzo to put 2 bullets in his chest. "I said run. And I said I'm done running." She grabbed the fallen man's gun, her hands shaking. "You don't get to die for me. Nobody else dies for me." They fought back to back, Rachel firing wildly but effectively, Vincenzo's shots precise despite the blood loss. In the chaos, she realized something terrifying. She wasn't afraid anymore. The fear that had controlled her entire life, the constant looking over her shoulder, the belief that she was helpless, all of it burned away in the crucible of violence. She was Giovanni DeMarco's daughter. And she was done being prey. The gunfire stopped as suddenly as it started. Antonio's voice called from the living room. "Impressive, Moretti. But you're bleeding out, and my reinforcements are 3 minutes away. You have 90 seconds to make a choice." Vincenzo's shoulder was soaked red, his face pale. Rachel pressed her hand against the wound, feeling his blood pulse hot against her palm. "We can make it to the panic room," she whispered. "And then what?" "Wait for them to blow through the walls. That room buys us hours, not safety." His eyes met hers. "There's another way out. Service elevator in the kitchen. Go straight to the garage. Keys to the Mercedes are in my jacket pocket. You can barely stand. Then you'll drive." Vivian appeared in the doorway, her dress torn, a cut across her cheek. "Rossi's dead. They got him in the neck." He said something before he went, kept saying the aunt. "Mean anything to you?" Rachel's blood froze. "Aunt Marie. My mother's sister. She lives in Newark. Oh God, if they know about her. Address. Now." Vincenzo was already moving, pulling Rachel toward the kitchen. 364 Maple Street. The blue house with the white fence. "But she doesn't know anything about my father, about any of this." "Doesn't matter. They'll use her anyway." Vincenzo typed rapidly on his phone with his good hand. "Marco, you still breathing?" The phone crackled. "Barely, boss. I'm pinned down in the stairwell. At least 15 hostiles between me and you. Forget us. Get to Newark. 364 Maple Street. There's a woman there, 60s, name's Marie Carmichael. Get her out before the Castellanos do." "Boss, I can't leave you." "That's an order, Marco. Protect her like she's my own mother." "Oh. Now." He hung up as they reached the kitchen. The service elevator was hidden behind a false panel that swung open at Vincenzo's touch. But when the doors opened, Rachel's heart stopped. A man already stood inside. Tall, gray hair, wearing an expensive suit despite the late hour. He had her eyes, nose, her stubborn jaw. "Hello, daughter," Giovanni DeMarco said quietly. Vincenzo raised his gun, but Giovanni was faster. His own weapon already trained on Vincenzo's chest. "I'm not here to hurt you," Giovanni said. "Either of you. I'm here to get my child to safety." By pointing a gun at the man who's been protecting her, Rachel stepped between them, shocking herself with her own courage. Giovanni's expression softened, something like pride flickering across his features. "You have your mother's fire. She once pulled a knife on me for forgetting her birthday." He lowered his weapon. "Vincenzo Moretti, I've heard impressive things. Thank you for keeping my daughter alive. I didn't do it for you." "I know. That's why I'm not killing you for touching her. Giovanni stepped out of the elevator. But we don't have time for territorial posturing. Antonio has 40 men surrounding this building. More coming. We have a 3-minute window before they breach the kitchen. How did you get in? Vivian asked, appearing behind them with 2 more guns and a bag of ammunition. I own the building. Have since 1996. You think I'd let my daughter's protector live somewhere I couldn't access? Giovanni looked at Vincenzo. The panic room you installed last year. I approved the contractor. The security system you trust sends feeds to my people first. Every inch of this place has been under my watch. Vincenzo's jaw clenched. You've been spying on me. I've been ensuring the man guarding my greatest treasure was worthy of the task. And you have been, Moretti, more than worthy. Giovanni handed Rachel a bulletproof vest. Put this on. We're going to the garage, taking the armored SUV, and driving to my estate. All of us. What about Marco? Rachel asked, struggling into the vest with shaking hands. He's going after my aunt. Giovanni's expression flickered. Just for a second. Something like guilt. Marie Carmichael is already safe. I had her extracted 2 hours ago, right after Rossi confirmed the Castellanos were moving tonight. You knew, Rachel breathed. You knew they'd attack. I counted on it. Antonio's been watching this building for weeks. I made sure he saw what he needed to see. You here with minimal protection. Irresistible bait. Vincenzo lunged, grabbing Giovanni by the collar despite his wounded shoulder. You used her as bait. Your own daughter. To end a war that's lasted 25 years. But I would never let her be harmed. Every variable was calculated. Every escape route planned. Giovanni met Rachel's horrified gaze. You hate me. I accept that. But you're alive, and by tomorrow, the Castellano family will be destroyed, and you'll be free to live whatever life you choose. Free. Rachel laughed bitterly. I'll never be free. Not from this. Not from you. You've been pulling strings my entire life, and you call that freedom. An explosion rocked the building. The living room by the sound of it. Debate my parenting later. Move now. Giovanni led them into the elevator, hitting the garage level. As the doors closed, gunfire erupted in the kitchen. They'd missed the Castellanos by seconds. The elevator descended in tense silence. Rachel could feel 3 separate heartbeats, her own racing, Vincenzo's weakening, Giovanni's steady as a metronome. Why now? She asked her father. 24 years you stayed away. Why come back now? Because you fell in love, Giovanni said simply. And love makes people take risks, makes them visible. I knew the moment Vincenzo Moretti started looking at you differently, the moment you started looking back, that our time was running out. The Castellanos would notice. They'd act. So I acted first. The elevator opened to the garage. A black SUV waited, engine running. But so did a dozen armed men. Not Castellano soldiers. These wore different colors. Different family crests. Giovanni DeMarco. A woman's voice echoed through the concrete space. She stepped from behind the SUV. 50s, elegant, with silver hair and a smile like a blade. 25 years and you finally show yourself. I've been waiting a long time for this. Giovanni's face went white. Sophia. Hello, brother. The word detonated in Rachel's mind. Brother. Giovanni had a sister. Which meant Rachel had an aunt she'd never known about. I don't understand, Rachel whispered. Sophia's smile widened. Of course you don't, sweet girl. You don't understand that your father didn't just disappear to protect you from his enemies. He disappeared because he stole something that belonged to me. $50 million and the territory I'd spent a decade building. That territory was built on trafficking children, Giovanni said coldly. I shut you down and I'd do it again. And in the process you made yourself a martyr. The great Giovanni DeMarco, sacrificing everything for his infant daughter. What a beautiful story. Sophia circled closer. Except you forgot one detail. Have a daughter too. Before your moral crusade destroyed my organization and got her killed in the crossfire. Vincenzo's hand found Rachel's, squeezing tight. Sophia, I never knew about Elena. If I had. She was 6 years old. The same age as your precious Rachel is now. Wait, no. Your Rachel survived. Mine didn't. Sophia pulled out a gun. So here's what's going to happen. I've made a deal with Antonio Castellano. I deliver Giovanni DeMarco to him alive. And I get to keep whatever's left of your empire after he's done torturing you for information. And Rachel? Giovanni asked quietly. Oh, she's part of the deal too. Antonio wants DeMarco blood. Doesn't matter whose. Sophia aimed at Rachel. Nothing personal, niece. Just business. The gunshot rang out. But it wasn't Sophia who fired. Vivian stood behind her, gun smoking. Her face expressionless as Sophia crumpled. Nobody threatens my future sister-in-law, Vivian said calmly, stepping over the body. Now can we please leave before more family members crawl out of the woodwork? Giovanni stared at his sister's corpse, something broken passing across his face. Then he straightened, the mask sliding back into place. The men are hers, not ours. They'll scatter without leadership. Move to the vehicle. Now. Iran. Vincenzo stumbled, his blood loss catching up. Rachel caught him, half carrying him to the SUV. Giovanni took the driver's seat, Vivian beside him. Rachel and Vincenzo collapsed in the back. As they peeled out of the garage, bullets sparking off the armored plating, Rachel looked at the father she'd never known. Your sister, she said. You loved her once. I did. And you still let Vivian kill her. I let Vivian save your life. There's a difference. Giovanni's eyes met hers in the rearview mirror. You're going to learn something about this world, Rachel. Love isn't enough. Love doesn't stop the bullets or silence the enemies. Only power does. Only sacrifice. And sometimes the people we love become the people we have to destroy. Vincenzo's head dropped onto Rachel's shoulder. His breathing shallow. He needs a hospital, she said desperately. Hospital means questions. Questions mean police. Police mean exposure. Giovanni took a sharp turn. There's a doctor at the estate. Best surgeon money can buy. He'll live. You don't know that. I do. Because you need him to live. And I've never denied you anything you truly needed. You denied me a father. No. I denied you a target on your back. There's a difference. They drove in silence through the city streets, leaving behind the gunfire, the bodies, the life Rachel had thought was hers. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Against her better judgment, she answered. Rachel Marlowe. A man's voice, refined, unfamiliar. Who is this? My name is Detective James Morrison. I'm with the Organized Crime Unit. I'm calling because we have Marco Santini in custody. He was attempting to abduct a Marie Carmichael from her home in Newark. He's offered to give us information on Vincenzo Moretti's operation in exchange for protection. But he says he'll only talk if you confirm you're safe. Are you there of your own free will, Ms. Marlowe? The SUV went silent. Everyone heard. Marco. Loyal Marco. Vincenzo's right hand for 15 years. Turn. Vincenzo's eyes opened, pain and betrayal warring in his expression. Marco, he whispered. No. He wouldn't. But the fear in his voice said he knew differently. Rachel looked at the phone. One word and the police would track this call. One word and they'd all go down. One word and maybe, finally, the violence would stop. Ms. Marlowe. The detective pressed. Are you in danger? Giovanni's eyes found hers in the mirror. Not threatening. Just waiting. Letting her choose. Vincenzo's blood soaked through her shirt. His hand found hers, trembling. Vivian's gun rested on her lap, ready. And somewhere in the night, the Castellanos were regrouping, planning, hunting. Rachel took a breath. and made a choice that would define everything that came next. "I'm safe," Rachel said into the phone. "Tell Marco I'm fine. He doesn't need to worry." The detective paused. "Can you confirm your current location?" "I'm exactly where I need to be." "And detective, Marco's lying. He wasn't abducting my aunt. He was protecting her. Check her statement. She'll tell you." She hung up before he could respond. Giovanni's shoulders relaxed slightly. Vincenzo squeezed her hand, relief flooding his pale features. "Thank you," he breathed. "Don't thank me yet. I just lied to a police detective. Pretty sure that makes me an accessory to about 40 crimes. Welcome to the family business," Vivian said dryly. They drove another 20 minutes into the mountains. The estate appeared like something out of a dark fairy tale. Massive stone walls, iron gates, guards with automatic weapons stationed every 50 feet. The doctor was waiting, a thin man with steady hands and zero curiosity. He took one look at Vincenzo and gestured to a room that had been set up like a surgical suite. "He's lost a lot of blood," the doctor said. "I'll need at least 2 hours." "He has whatever time he needs," Giovanni said. "Rachel stays with him." "Father, I should." "You call me father now?" Giovanni's expression softened. "You should rest. You've been beaten, shot at, and learned your entire life was a lie. You've earned a moment to breathe." But Rachel couldn't breathe. Not while they cut the bullet from Vincenzo's shoulder. Not while he gritted his teeth against the pain, refusing anesthesia because he didn't trust being unconscious in Giovanni's house. Not while her Aunt Marie was brought in by guards, confused and terrified. "Rachel." Aunt Marie looked like she'd aged 10 years. "What's happening? These men, they said you were in danger, and then the police came and—" "I know. Sorry. I'm so sorry you got dragged into this." Marie took in the blood, the guns, the fortress around them. "Your mother made me promise. Made me swear that if anything ever happened to her, I'd keep you away from him. From your father. She said he was dangerous. That he'd consume you. She was right. But you're here anyway. I didn't have a choice." Marie cupped Rachel's bruised face. "There's always a choice, baby girl. Always. Remember that." 2 hours later, Vincenzo was stitched and bandaged, sleeping fitfully on a bed that cost more than Rachel's yearly rent. She sat beside him, holding his hand, watching his chest rise and fall. Giovanni appeared in the doorway. "We need to talk," he said. They went to his office, a room lined with books and weapons in equal measure. He poured 2 glasses of scotch, handed her one. "You did well tonight. Better than I expected. You expected me to break. I expected you to be afraid. You were. But you didn't let it control you. That's the DeMarco blood." He sat across from her. "The Castellanos will regroup. They'll come harder next time. But we have something they don't." "What's that?" "You." Giovanni leaned forward. "Antonio Castellano Sr. wants revenge for his son. But more than that, he wants legitimacy. Respect. The one thing his family has never had. And I'm prepared to offer him a deal." Rachel's stomach dropped. "What kind of deal?" "A marriage. You to his nephew, Marcus Castellano. Unite our families. And the war." Everyone walks away breathing. The scotch glass slipped from her hand, shattering on the floor. "You can't be serious. It's the only way to guarantee your safety. Marcus is young, educated, not involved in the family business. You'd live well. Comfortably. And the violence stops. I won't do it. I won't marry some stranger to end a war I didn't start. Even if it saves Vincenzo's life. Because Antonio's made it clear. He wants Moretti dead. But if you marry Marcus, Vincenzo gets to walk away. Retire. Live peacefully somewhere far from all this. You're lying. You're manipulating me. I'm giving you a choice your mother never had. She loved me and it got her killed. Car accident, the story goes. But it wasn't an accident, Rachel. The Castellanos ran her off the road when you were 8. They made it look random. But it was a message to me. Stay hidden or lose more. The room spun. Her mother. Murdered. Not a drunk driver like the police said. Murdered because of the man sitting across from her. You knew, she whispered. All these years you knew they killed her and you did nothing. I did everything. I've spent 16 years destroying them piece by piece. But Antonio Sr. is smart. Protected. Untouchable. Till now. Until you. So I'm bait again. Just like tonight. You're a queen on a chessboard. The most powerful piece. The one that ends the game. Rachel stood, her legs shaking. I'm not a piece. I'm a person. And I'm not marrying anyone. She left before he could respond, walking blindly through hallways that all looked the same. She found herself in a garden, winter dead but still beautiful in its starkness. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Your father is lying. Marcus Castellano died 3 years ago in prison. There is no marriage deal. Only a funeral. Worse. Get out while you can. Her blood froze. She turned to run back inside to warn someone, anyone. But the garden gate opened and men poured through. Not Castellano soldiers. Police. Dozens of them. Led by Detective Morrison. Rachel Marlowe, you're under arrest as a material witness in multiple homicides. You have the right to remain silent. No, you don't understand. The Castellanos, they're coming. Everyone here is in danger. The only danger here is Giovanni DeMarco and his associates. We've been tracking him for months. Your phone call gave us the location we needed. Morrison gestured, and officers flooded the estate. Gunfire erupted inside. Vincenzo! Rachel screamed, fighting against the hands pulling her toward a police van. He's injured, he can't fight, please. Vincenzo Moretti is wanted for 17 counts of murder. If he survives tonight, he'll die in prison. They shoved her into the van. Through the window, she watched the estate light up with muzzle flashes. Watched guards fall. Watched her father appear on a balcony. Hands raised in surrender. Watched Vivian take a bullet to the chest, crumpling like a broken doll. And then she saw him. Vincenzo stumbling out a side door. His bandages already red with fresh blood. He was looking for her, calling her name. A sniper's laser sight found his chest. No! Rachel threw herself against the van door, but it was locked. Please no, don't. The shot rang out. Vincenzo went down. The van pulled away, and Rachel's screams filled the night, raw and animal and completely powerless. At the police station they put her in an interrogation room. Hours passed. Or maybe minutes. Time meant nothing. Finally, Morrison entered with another man. Older. Distinguished. Wearing an expensive suit. Ms. Marlowe, this is Antonio Castellano Sr. He's here as a concerned citizen. It seems you made quite an impression on his nephew Marcus before Marcus's untimely death. Antonio sat across from her. His smile cold. Hello, Rachel. Or do you prefer the name on your arrest warrant? Rachel DeMarco, accessory to murder, kidnapping and racketeering. You did this, she breathed. The tip to the police. The raid. You set it all up. I've been setting it up for 3 years. Since the day my son first reported back about a pretty waitress who didn't know her own worth. Antonio folded his hands. Giovanni thought he was so clever, hiding you in plain sight. But he made one mistake. He loved you. And love makes men predictable. Where's Vincenzo? Is he alive? Vincenzo Moretti died on Giovanni's lawn 17 minutes ago. Bled out before the ambulance arrived. I made sure of it. My men in the police department know how to delay medical response when necessary. The words didn't land. Couldn't land. Because if they did, if she let herself believe them, she'd shatter completely. You're lying. Detective Morrison, show her the photographs. Morrison slid an envelope across the table. Rachel's hands shook as she opened it. Crime scene photos. Vincenzo on the ground, eyes open and empty, blood pooling beneath him. Vivian beside him, equally dead. Giovanni in handcuffs, his face beaten and hollow. Her Aunt Marie, collateral damage, caught in the crossfire. Everyone she'd let herself care about in the span of one night. Your father will spend the rest of his life in a maximum security prison, Antonio continued. You'll be charged as an accessory unless you cooperate, which means testifying against Giovanni, confirming every crime, every murder, every sin. And if I refuse, then you join him in prison, 20 to life minimum. Either way, the DeMarco bloodline ends, either caged or broken. I don't particularly care which. Morrison leaned forward. We can protect you if you cooperate. New identity, new life. You can go back to being nobody. Isn't that what you wanted? It was. 12 hours ago, it was all she'd wanted. To be invisible. If normal. But that girl was dead too. I need time, Rachel whispered. You have until morning. Then we arraign you and the offer disappears. Morrison stood. Think carefully, Ms. Marlowe. You're the only one left who gets to choose their ending. They left her alone in the room. 4 walls, fluorescent lights, and photographs of everyone she'd loved, dead because of her. Because she'd fallen for Vincenzo. Because she'd trusted her father. Because she'd been stupid enough to believe she could be more than a waitress with a broken face and broken dreams. The door opened again. A guard she didn't recognize. You have a visitor, he said. Special circumstances. You've got 5 minutes. A woman entered. Late 20s. Beautiful. Wearing designer clothes and an expression of cool assessment. Hello, Rachel. My name is Isabella Moretti. Vincenzo's wife. The floor dropped away. His what? We've been married for 8 years. Separated for 2, but still legally bound. Which means I inherit everything now that he's dead. His empire. His assets. His debts. Isabella sat down. And you, it seems, are his most recent debt. He made arrangements. Should anything happen to him, I'm to offer you a choice. I don't understand. Vincenzo knew he was going to die tonight. He knew my brother's raid was coming. He chose to die anyway because getting you to safety was worth more than his life. Isabella's mask cracked slightly. Idiot always was too noble for his own good. Your brother, Detective James Morrison. He's been on my family's payroll for 6 years. The raid was real. The charges are real. But the photographs. He pulled them back. Theatrical. Vincenzo is alive. Barely. In a hospital my family controls. Vivian too. Your father is in custody, but he'll be transferred to a facility where he can be extracted. It's all been arranged. Hope flared, desperate and painful. Why are you telling me this? Because Vincenzo made me promise. Before he went under in surgery. He grabbed my hand and said, save her. Not himself. Not his empire. You. Isabella's eyes hardened. So here's your choice. Come with me right now. We fake your death, get you out of the country, reunite you with Vincenzo wherever he ends up. You spend the rest of your life running, hiding, always looking over your shoulder. Or you stay. Testify against your father. Take the new identity. Live the small, safe life you always wanted. Vincenzo will understand. He'll let you go. But he'll still be running. Until the day someone catches him. Yes. Rachel looked at the fake photographs. At the life she could have. The safety. The silence. Then she thought about Vincenzo's hands. Gentle on her broken face. His voice saying, you're everything. The choice wasn't really a choice at all. How do we get out of here? She asked. Isabella smiled. Now you sound like a Moretti. The escape was almost too easy. Isabella's guard opened the interrogation room door. 2 more waited in the hallway, both on Isabella's payroll. They walked Rachel past holding cells, past booking, past 3 detectives who didn't even look up from their paperwork. People see what they expect to see, Isabella murmured. A prisoner being transferred. Happens 100 times a day. They exited through a side door where a black sedan waited. Isabella pushed Rachel into the back seat, climbed in beside her. The car pulled away from the station, and just like that, Rachel Marlowe became a fugitive. "Where are we going?" Rachel asked. "Safe house in Connecticut. 2 hours north. Vincenzo's there, along with Vivian and a medical team." Isabella stared out the window. "After that I don't know. That's above my pay grade. You said you were separated. Why help him now?" "Because despite everything, despite the arguments and the different lives we wanted, Vincenzo is still the best man I've ever known. And when the best man you know asks you to save the woman he actually loves, you do it." Isabella's voice cracked. "Even when it kills you." Rachel heard the pain beneath the words. "You still love him." "I never stopped. I just stopped being what he needed." "There's a difference." Isabella finally looked at her. "He used to look at me the way he looks at you now. Like I was the only solid thing in a collapsing world. But I wanted out. Wanted normal. Wanted a life that wasn't measured in body counts and narrow escapes. So I left, and he let me go, and we've been orbiting each other ever since like broken satellites. I'm sorry. Don't be. I made my choice. Now you get to make yours." The car turned onto a dark highway. "But understand something, Rachel. If you choose him, choose this life, there's no going back. No morning where you wake up and decide you want normal again. You'll be marked forever. Hunted forever. And everyone you love becomes a target. Everyone I love is already dead or in custody. Your Aunt Marie isn't dead. The photographs were fake, remember? She's in protective custody. Real protective custody, not the corrupt kind. She'll be given a new identity, relocated, safe. But only if you disappear completely. No contact. No letters. No phone calls. She has to believe you're dead or she becomes leverage." Rachel's chest tightened. Aunt Marie. The woman who'd raised her after her mother died. Who'd worked 2 jobs to keep Rachel fed and clothed. Who'd never asked for anything except that Rachel be happy. I can't do that to her. Can't let her think I'm gone. You can and you will. Because the alternative is the Castellanos finding her and using her to draw you out. And then she really does die, terrified and alone, wondering why you didn't save her. The words were cruel because they were true. They drove in silence. Rachel watched the world blur past, everything she'd known getting smaller in the rearview mirror. At some point she must have slept, because Isabella was shaking her awake. "We're here." The safe house was a cabin buried in woods so thick the moon couldn't penetrate. Armed guards surrounded the perimeter. Isabella led Rachel inside, through a living room set up like a command center, downstairs to a basement that had been converted into a medical facility. Vincenzo lay in a hospital bed, monitors beeping steadily. His shoulder was bandaged properly now, for lines running into both arms. His eyes were closed, his face too pale. But he was breathing. Rachel's knees buckled. Isabella caught her. "He's stable. Lost a lot of blood, but the bullet missed anything vital. He'll live. Can I touch him?" "He's your reason for running. I think you've earned that right." Rachel approached slowly, like he might disappear if she moved too fast. She took his hand, feeling his pulse against her palm. "Steady. Real. Alive." His eyes opened, unfocused at first, then finding her. "Rachel," he breathed. "You're safe. Thank God. Isabella got you out. I'm here. I'm okay. You shouldn't be. Should be far away from all this. Far away from me." His grip tightened. "This is my fault. All of it. I should have stayed away from you. Should have just watched from a distance like Giovanni asked. But I was selfish. Wanted you so badly I convinced myself I could keep you safe. And look what happened. 8 people dead because you walked into my life. Your sister shot. Your father in prison. Your aunt thinking you're dead. All because I couldn't stay away." Rachel had been holding herself together through sheer will, but his words cracked something fundamental inside her. Stop, she whispered. Just stop. But he couldn't. You should hate me. Should testify against all of us and take the clean life they're offering. You'd be smart to run as far from me as possible. You want me to leave. I want you to be happy. And you'll never be happy in my world. She pulled her hand away, stepping back. You don't get to decide that. You don't get to make choices for me. Someone has to make the smart choice, and you're too kind to make it yourself. Too kind. I lied to the police. Became an accessory to murder. Chose to run instead of cooperating. Does that sound kind to you? It sounds like someone who doesn't understand what she's signing up for. Vivian's voice came from across the room. She sat in another bed, her chest wrapped in bandages, her face drawn but alive. For once, brother, shut up and let the girl speak. Vincenzo looked at his sister. You should be resting. I'll rest when I'm dead. Which nearly happened tonight. So forgive me if I want to witness this conversation. Vivian turned to Rachel. He's trying to save you from himself. It's his fatal flaw. The nobility complex. Thinks everyone he loves needs protecting from the consequences of loving him back. That's not what this is. Isn't it? You pushed Isabella away for the same reason. Told her she deserved better, that she should want normal. She did want normal, but you didn't give her the choice. You made it for her. And you've been miserable ever since. Vincenzo's jaw clenched. This is different. How? Because Rachel's a waitress instead of a mafia princess. Because she's got a kind heart and you think that makes her fragile. Vivian coughed, pain flashing across her face. I've seen her tonight. Watched her grab a gun and fight when she could have run. Watched her lie to the cops to protect you. Watched her choose this life when she had every reason to choose safety. She's stronger than you think. Or she's traumatized and making decisions from fear. Rachel's hands balled into fists. Stop talking about me like I'm not here. They both looked at her. You want to know the truth, Vincenzo? You're right. I am traumatized. I am making decisions from fear. But not fear of the Castellanos or the violence or the running. Her voice broke. I'm terrified that I'll wake up tomorrow and realize I was only worth saving because of my father. That the man who's been watching me for 3 months, who memorized how I pour coffee, who makes me feel seen for the first time in my pathetic life, was only ever following orders. Rachel, no. Let me finish. I'm terrified that I've built this whole fantasy in my head where someone like you could actually love someone like me. Where the broken waitress gets the dangerous prince, and they live dangerously ever after. But fantasies don't survive bullets and betrayal, and learning your whole life was constructed by a father who's really just a monster in an expensive suit. She wiped at her eyes, angry at the tears. So yeah, maybe I should take the deal. Testify. Disappear. Live small and safe and alone. At least then I'd know the pain was real. At least then I wouldn't have to wonder if the best thing that ever happened to me was just another manipulation. The room fell silent except for the beeping monitors. Vincenzo tried to sit up, groaning at the pain. You think Giovanni manipulated me into loving you? I think he put you in that diner every morning for 3 months. I think proximity breeds familiarity. And familiarity breeds affection. And maybe what you feel isn't real. It's just conditioning. Then let me tell you what Giovanni didn't condition me to feel. Vincenzo's eyes burned into hers. He didn't make me notice that you bite your lower lip when you're counting tips. Didn't make me memorize the constellation of freckles on your left wrist. Didn't make my chest tighten every time you smiled at another customer, and I wanted to be the only one you smiled at. He swung his legs off the bed, ignoring Isabella's protest. Giovanni didn't make me fall in love with the way you hum off key, or how you always give the biggest portions to people who look hungry, or how you apologize to a chair after bumping into it. He didn't script the 1,000 tiny moments where I learned who you are beneath the survival and the fear. A woman who's been beaten down by life and still chooses kindness. Who's been abandoned and still believes in connection. Who's been lied to and still wants to trust. He stood swaying, using the bed for support. You're right that you're broken. Am I? We're both shattered people trying to pretend we're whole. But when I'm with you, the broken pieces don't hurt as much. They fit different. Better. And maybe that's not love in the fairy tale sense. Maybe it's just two disasters finding comfort in shared wreckage. But it's real, Rachel. It's the most real thing I've ever felt. Rachel couldn't breathe. Couldn't think past the roaring in her ears. I don't know how to be what you need, she whispered. I don't need you to be anything except alive and choosing this. Choosing me. Not because you're scared or traumatized or trapped. But because somewhere in all this horror you want to. And if I choose wrong, if I can't handle this life and I break completely, then I'll be there to help pick up the pieces. Same as you do for me. Isabella cleared her throat. This is all very moving, but we have a practical problem. The Castellanos think you're both dead. Your father thinks you're in police custody. We have maybe a 12-hour window before someone realizes the photographs were staged and starts looking harder. We need to move. Tonight. And we need to know if we're moving as a group or splitting up. Vivian added. There's a cargo ship leaving from Boston Harbor at dawn. Headed to Portugal. From there we can disappear into Europe. New identities, new lives. But it's all or nothing. Either we all go or we all stay and fight. No in between. Fight with what? Rachel asked. The police have my father. The Castellanos have the city. We're outnumbered and outgunned. We have something they don't, Vincenzo said. We have you. I'm not a weapon. No, you're a symbol. Giovanni DeMarco's daughter, alive and free. Every family that hated the Castellanos, every soldier tired of Antonio's reign, they'd rally behind you if you gave them reason. You want me to start a war. I want you to end one. Stand up. Reclaim your name. Show the city that the Castellanos don't get to win just because they're willing to be more brutal. Vincenzo's hand found hers again. But that's only if you want to fight. If you want to run, get on that ship, build a quiet life in Portugal, I'll support that too. I'll be right there beside you. Rachel looked at the man she'd known for 3 months and loved for considerably less. At his sister, who'd taken a bullet protecting her. At Isabella, who'd saved her despite every reason not to. Then she thought about her father, rotting in a cell for crimes he'd committed to protect her. About Tony, who'd spent 3 years pretending to love her just to keep tabs. About Antonio Castellano, who'd orchestrated her mother's death and called it business. About every moment of her 27 years spent small and scared and powerless. Something shifted in her chest. Not courage exactly. More like exhaustion with her own fear. If we fight, she said slowly, people will die. Yes. Including possibly us. Yes. And there's no guarantee we win. None at all. Rachel pulled her hand from Vincenzo's. For a moment, his face fell, resignation settling in. Then she walked to the stairs, climbed them, and found the guard at the door. I need a phone, she said. And I need to make a call that's going to get traced in about 30 seconds. Can you make that happen? The guard looked past her to where Vincenzo had appeared at the top of the stairs, leaning heavily on the railing. Do it, Vincenzo said. The guard handed her a burner phone. Rachel dialed a number she'd memorized from the police station. Detective Morrison answered on the second ring. I know who killed your men tonight, she said. I know where Antonio Castellano is keeping the evidence of his police corruption. And I know how to bring down his entire operation. But I need something in return. Morrison's voice sharpened. What do you want? My father. Released into my custody within 24 hours. And immunity for everyone with me right now. Full immunity, in writing, signed by the district attorney. That's not how this works. Then enjoy watching the Castellanos own your city for another 20 years. Your choice, detective. Justice or pride. She hung up before he could answer. Vincenzo stared at her like he'd never seen her before. What did you just do? Something stupid. Something reckless. Something that's probably going to get us all killed. Rachel met his gaze. I chose. Not safety. Not running. I chose the broken, dangerous, impossible option. Chose you. Chose this. So now you're stuck with me. The smile that crossed his face was worth every risk. Then let's go to war, he said. Morrison called back in 8 minutes. You have a deal. Conditional immunity pending verification of your information. Your father stays in custody until we confirm what you're giving us is real. Not good enough. He gets transferred to a federal facility tonight, away from Castellano's dirty cops. Then I talk. Long pause. Fine. But Rachel, if you're lying, if this is some play to break him out, I will personally make sure you never see daylight again. Understood. I'll contact you in 6 hours with a location. She hung up and turned to the others. We have until dawn. After that, the Castellanos will know something's wrong. Vivian had made her way upstairs, moving slowly but deliberately. What's the play? We don't actually have evidence on Antonio. No. But we know someone who does. Rachel looked at Isabella. You said your brother has been on your family's payroll for 6 years. That means he's been documenting his relationship with the Castellanos as insurance. Where does he keep it? Isabella's expression shifted to respect. Safety deposit box. First National Bank, downtown. But he's the only signatory. We can't access it without him. Then we convince him to access it himself. Vincenzo leaned against the wall, conserving strength. Morrison won't betray his meal ticket. The Castellanos pay him too well. He will if he thinks they're about to cut him loose. Rachel's mind raced, pieces falling into place. Antonio's smart. He wouldn't leave loose ends. Once this is over, once my father's locked away and I'm dead, Morrison becomes a liability. Someone who knows too much. Antonio will eliminate him. Morrison knows that, Isabella said. That's why he keeps the insurance. Right. So we make him think the timeline's moved up. Make him think Antonio's coming for him tonight instead of later. He panics, grabs his evidence to use as leverage, and we intercept. Vivian smiled, predatory. How do we make him think that? We give Antonio a reason to clean house early. Rachel pulled out the burner phone again. We tell him his nephew talked before he died. The room went silent. Marcus Castellano has been dead for 3 years, Vincenzo said slowly. What could he have talked about? Doesn't matter. Antonio doesn't know we know Marcus is dead. He thinks there's a marriage deal on the table. So we send an anonymous tip to his organization. Say that Marcus left a confession before his death. Names, dates, everything. Say the feds are about to move on it. Antonio's paranoia does the rest. Isabella shook her head in disbelief. That's insane. You're going to start a panic inside the Castellano family based on a dead man's fictional confession. Yes. They'll turn on each other. Start eliminating anyone who might have talked. Yes. Morrison will be at the top of that list. Exactly. Rachel met her gaze. I spent 3 years watching people. Learning to read fear, desperation, violence before it happened. Survival skill for a waitress with an abusive ex. I know how men like Antonio think. Control through fear. Loyalty through leverage. But fear cuts both ways. Make him afraid enough, and he'll burn his own house down trying to kill the rats. Vincenzo was staring at her like he'd never seen her before. You've been planning this. I've been surviving this. There's a difference. He checked the time. We have 5 hours before sunrise. Isabella, I need you to send the tip. Use one of the Castellano soldiers' phones if you have access. Make it look like it's coming from inside the family. I can do that. Vivian, we need surveillance on Morrison. The moment he moves toward that bank, we need to know. I've got people who can handle it. And Vincenzo. She turned to him, seeing the pain he was trying to hide. You need to rest. Let us handle the setup. Not a chance. You can barely stand. Then I'll sit in the car. But I'm not letting you walk into danger without me. They argued for 3 minutes before Rachel realized she wouldn't win. Vincenzo's stubbornness was matched only by his certainty that she needed protecting, even now, even when she was the one making the plans. Isabella made the call, her voice disguised, her message brief. Marcus talked. The feds have everything. Clean house or we all go down. Then they waited. 20 minutes later, Vivian's contact reported movement. Antonio Castellano was calling an emergency meeting of his captains. 40 minutes after that, 3 low-level soldiers were found dead in their homes. The purge had begun. And 1 hour after the tip, Detective Morrison left his apartment carrying a briefcase, looking over his shoulder every 30 seconds. He's heading downtown, Vivian confirmed. Toward the bank. They moved fast. Vincenzo, Rachel, and 2 guards in one car. Isabella and Vivian in another. They reached the bank just as Morrison pulled into the parking garage. He'll use the night deposit entrance, Isabella said through the radio. There's a private access for box holders after hours. Security guard on duty is named Lewis. He's clean, not on anyone's payroll. Rachel watched Morrison disappear into the building. How long will it take him to get the box? 5 minutes, maybe 10 if he's careful. Then we have 5 minutes to get into position. She turned to Vincenzo. You stay here. If this goes wrong, you drive away. Don't look back. Rachel. Promise me. If I don't come out, you run. You live. You don't throw your life away on a rescue that won't work. His jaw clenched, but he nodded. The lie was obvious. He'd never leave her. They both knew it. Rachel took one of the guards' guns, checked the clip like she'd seen in movies, hoped muscle memory from 2 hours of violence would be enough. She entered through the main doors. The security guard, Lewis, looked up from his desk. We're closed, miss. I know. I'm here to see Detective Morrison. He's expecting me. Lewis frowned, reaching for his radio. Rachel moved faster than she thought possible, crossing the space and pressing the gun to his side. Don't, please. I don't want to hurt you, but I will if I have to. His eyes widened. To her. The one from the news. The DeMarco girl. Yes. And the man in your vault right now is dirty. He works for the people who killed my mother. So you have a choice. You can call for backup and we both die when the Castellanos get here. Or you can sit quietly for the next 3 minutes and walk away from this alive. Lewis looked at her face, at the bruises still visible, at the desperation in her eyes. 3 minutes, he said quietly. Then I have to report this. That's all I need. She moved toward the vault access, heart hammering. Morrison appeared in the hallway, briefcase in hand, and froze when he saw her. Rachel, what are you doing here? Taking the insurance policy you were about to trade to the highest bidder. He stepped back, hand moving toward his gun. You don't understand. Antonio's cleaning house. I'm a dead man if I don't have leverage. You're a dead man either way. But if you give me that briefcase, I'll make sure your daughter knows you tried to do the right thing at the end. His face went pale. How do you know about Emma? Because I pay attention. Because 3 months ago, you came into the diner wearing a bracelet that said, World's Best Dad. Because you always ordered chocolate chip pancakes to go on Sundays. Visitation days, I'm guessing. Because you're not just a corrupt cop. You're a father who made bad choices and kept making them until there was no way out. Morrison's hand trembled on his weapon. She's 8 years old. If Antonio thinks I betrayed him, he'll go after her to send a message. Then help me end him. Give me the evidence. Testify. We can protect Emma. Put her in real witness protection, not the corrupt kind. But you have to choose right now. The badge or your daughter. You don't get both. For a long moment, Morrison stood frozen, every path ahead leading to destruction. Then he lowered his gun and handed her the briefcase. There's 15 years of documentation in there. Wire transfers, photographs, recordings. Enough to bring down Antonio and half the police department with him. His voice broke. Get my daughter somewhere safe. That's all I ask. You have my word. Rachel turned to leave, briefcase in hand, victory so close she could taste it. That's when Isabella walked in, her own gun raised. Not at Morrison. Rachel. I'm sorry, Isabella said, and she actually sounded like she meant it. But I can't let you destroy everything I've built. Vincenzo appeared behind her, his face a mask of betrayal and rage despite his wounds. Isabella, what are you doing? What I should have done months ago. Ending this before it destroys what's left of our family. She kept her gun trained on Rachel. You think I helped you escape out of the goodness of my heart? I did it to get you here. To this moment. Antonio's paying me $5 million for Giovanni DeMarco's daughter, alive and unspoiled. Enough money to disappear. To finally be free of all of this. You set us up, Rachel breathed. The safe house, the plan, everything. I gave you hope so you'd be easier to deliver. Hope makes people careless. Isabella's hand was steady. Vincenzo, I do love you. I always have. But love doesn't pay for freedom. This does. So you have a choice. Let me take her and walk away rich. Or try to stop me and watch her die when Antonio's men come through that door in approximately 90 seconds. Right on cue, the bank's side entrance exploded inward. Castellano soldiers poured in, at least a dozen, led by Antonio himself. Well done, Mrs. Moretti, Antonio said, his smile victorious. I knew you'd see reason eventually. The briefcase, if you please. Isabella grabbed it from Rachel's numb fingers, tossed it to Antonio. He opened it, checked the contents, and nodded in satisfaction. Morrison, you've been a useful asset. Pity it has to end this way. He shot the detective twice in the chest. Morrison went down, blood spreading across the marble floor. Rachel screamed, lunging forward, but Isabella caught her, holding her in place. And now the DeMarco girl. Antonio approached, pulling out a knife. I'm going to enjoy this. Low. Painful. Everything your father deserves for the empire he stole from me. Vincenzo moved, despite his wounds, despite the guns aimed at him. He put himself between Antonio and Rachel. You want her, you go through me first. That can be arranged. The gunshot was deafening in the enclosed space. But it wasn't Antonio who fired. It was Louis, the security guard, who'd pulled his own weapon and shot the soldier nearest to him. Then the windows exploded inward, and Vivian's team poured through, turning the bank into a war zone. In the chaos, Isabella's grip loosened. Rachel twisted free, grabbing Morrison's fallen weapon. She'd never fired a gun in her life. But when Antonio turned his knife toward Vincenzo, she didn't hesitate. The shot took Antonio in the shoulder, spinning him around. The second shot hit center mass. The third was pure rage for her mother, for the years of hiding, for every moment of fear. Antonio Castellano went down, his empire crumbling with him. Antonio Castellano died the way he'd lived, violently, surrounded by chaos of his own making. His body hit the marble floor, blood pooling beneath him, eyes wide with the shock that comes when untouchable men discover they're made of the same fragile flesh as everyone else. The bank erupted in gunfire. Castellano soldiers against Vivian's team. Bullets shredding through the air, shattering glass, punching holes in walls. Rachel stood frozen, gun still raised, still aimed at the space where Antonio had been standing. Her hands shook. Her ears rang. She just killed a man. Ended a life. Became exactly what she'd spent 27 years trying not to be. Vincenzo's hand covered hers, gently lowering the weapon. Breathe, he said. Just breathe. But breathing felt impossible when Morrison was bleeding out 3 feet away, when bodies were falling, when Isabella stood against the wall with her gun hanging loose at her side, her face unreadable. The firefight lasted 90 seconds. When the smoke cleared, 6 Castellano soldiers were dead. 3 of Vivian's team were wounded but alive. And the remaining Castellano men had their hands raised in surrender. Vivian limped forward, her chest bandages seeping red but her eyes sharp. Secure them. Anyone moves wrong, put them down. She approached Antonio's corpse, checked for a pulse, then looked at Rachel with something like pride. Clean shots. Grouping's not bad for a first-timer. I killed him, Rachel whispered. Yes, you did. How does it feel? I don't know. Me. Well, but all of it at once. That's called being human. Welcome to the club. Vivian turned to Isabella, who hadn't moved from her position against the wall. And you. I should put a bullet in you right now for what you just did. Please don't, Isabella said quietly. Not until you check Morrison. Everyone looked at the detective's body. Still bleeding. Still motionless. He's dead, Vincenzo said. You watched Antonio shoot him. I watched Antonio shoot his vest. The one I told him to wear when I called him 2 hours ago. Isabella finally moved, kneeling beside Morrison and checking his neck. Pulse is weak but there. The impact probably cracked ribs, maybe caused internal bleeding. But he's alive. Rachel's world tilted again. You told him to wear a vest. I told him a lot of things. Like how to play his part convincingly when Antonio showed up. How to look terrified. How to hand over the briefcase like he'd given up. Isabella stood, pulling a second briefcase from behind the security desk. The real evidence. Morrison's actual insurance. Antonio died holding 15 years of useless bank statements and grocery receipts. The revelation landed like a shockwave. Vincenzo stared at his ex-wife. You were playing him. Playing all of us. Not all of you. Rachel knew. Isabella looked at her. Didn't you? Somewhere in the back of your mind, you knew something was off about my betrayal. Rachel thought back to that moment. Isabella's gun raised. Her apology that sounded too sincere. The way she'd held Rachel in place but never actually hurt her. The positioning that had kept Rachel away from the initial burst of gunfire. You were protecting me, Rachel said slowly. The whole time. Making Antonio think he'd won so he'd get careless. He'd never have come himself if he thought it was a trap. But for the chance to kill Giovanni DeMarco's daughter personally. To recover evidence that could destroy him. He couldn't resist. Isabella's smile was cold. Men like Antonio always underestimate women. Especially women they think they've bought. Vivian laughed, sharp and pained. So the 5 million. Already transferred to an offshore account this morning. Before I ever agreed to help him. He paid me to betray you, and I used his money to fund what comes next. Isabella opened the real briefcase. Morrison's been building this case for 3 years. Since his daughter was born, and he realized he didn't want her growing up in a world where the Castellanos owned everything. He's been documenting every transaction, every order, every dirty cop and corrupt official on their payroll. She pulled out folders, flash drives, recorded phone calls. This is enough to dismantle their entire operation. Not just Antonio. His captains, his soldiers, his business interests. All of it. Vincenzo shook his head in disbelief. Why not just give it to the FBI? Why this elaborate setup? Because the FBI has Castellano informants too. Morrison tried going official 2 years ago. His report disappeared, and 3 agents who'd seen it died in a car accident. Isabella looked at the detective's unconscious form. So he came to me, asked if there was another way. I told him there was, but it would require patience, planning, and making everyone, including the people we were trying to save, believe we'd turned. She met Vincenzo's eyes. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you, but you're a terrible liar when it comes to Rachel. You'd never have sold the betrayal convincingly if you'd known. You could have trusted me. I do trust you. With my life. Just not with hers. Isabella gestured to Rachel. Because you love her more than you love the plan. More than you love winning. And love makes people take stupid risks. Rachel found her voice. Morrison's daughter. Is she really safe? Federal protection. Real federal protection. I have friends Antonio didn't know about. She's with her mother in a secure location, waiting for her father to finish his last case. Isabella knelt beside Morrison again, checking his breathing. Someone call an ambulance. Tell them officer down. They'll come faster. Vivian was already on it. Rachel looked at the briefcase full of evidence. At Antonio's body. At the surrendered soldiers who'd built their lives on his empire. What happens now? She asked. Isabella stood, wiping Morrison's blood from her hands. Now we make a choice. We can give this evidence to the authorities. Let the system handle it. Trials, lawyers, years of waiting while half these men walk on technicalities. Or we use it ourselves. Leverage it. Every captain, every soldier, every corrupt official on that list, we give them a choice. Retire. Disappear. Find honest work. Or we release the evidence and let them face federal prosecution. That's blackmail. That's justice with a personal touch. Isabella's eyes were hard. The system failed Morrison. Failed your mother. Failed every victim the Castellanos ever touched. So we become the system. We clean house ourselves. Vivian nodded slowly. I like it. Controlled demolition instead of random chaos. We dismantle the empire piece by piece. And my father? Rachel asked. He's still in custody. About that, a new voice said from the entrance. They all turned, weapons raising. Giovanni DeMarco stood in the doorway, flanked by 4 federal agents. He was still in prison clothes, still handcuffed, but he was smiling. Someone want to explain how you're here? Vincenzo demanded. One of the agents stepped forward. Agent Sarah Rebecca, FBI Organized Crime Division. We've been investigating the Castellano family for 18 months. When we received an anonymous tip tonight about evidence being moved, we negotiated Mr. DeMarco's temporary release to assist in the operation. Anonymous tip, Rachel repeated, looking at Isabella. I've been busy, Isabella said with a shrug. Giovanni's eyes found Rachel, and for the first time, she saw genuine emotion crack through his careful mask. Relief. Pride. Fear that came too late to matter. You're alive, he said quietly. Barely. No thanks to your plans. My plans kept you breathing for 24 years. Your plans got my mother killed. Got me beaten. Got everyone I care about shot at. Some plan. The words landed hard. Giovanni flinched, his composure finally breaking. You're right. Every choice I made, I told myself it was to protect you. But protection became control. Control became obsession. And obsession made me forget the most important thing. What's that? That you're not a chess piece to be moved around a board. You're my daughter. And daughters deserve the truth, even when it's ugly. He looked at Agent Rebecca. Take these off. Sir, protocol states. I know what protocol states. But my daughter just killed Antonio Castellano, ending a war that's cost hundreds of lives. The least I can do is face her as a man, not a prisoner. Rebecca hesitated, then removed the handcuffs. Giovanni approached slowly, giving Rachel space to retreat if she wanted. He didn't. Your mother, Anna. I loved her more than I've ever loved anything except you. When the Castellanos killed her, I wanted to burn the world down. Wanted to make everyone suffer the way I was suffering. But she'd made me promise something before she died. He pulled out a letter, worn and creased from years of handling. She was dying in the hospital. Knew she wouldn't make it. She grabbed my hand and said, "Promise me you'll let Rachel choose. Don't make her be us. Let her be herself. Promise." And I've broken that promise every day since. He handed Rachel the letter. Her mother's handwriting. Instructions for her care. Hopes for her future. And at the bottom, one final line. If she chooses the life, support her. If she chooses freedom, let her go. Either way, love her enough to respect her choice. Rachel's vision blurred with tears. I've spent 24 years making your choices for you, Giovanni said. Deciding where you'd live, what you'd know, who you'd become. I told myself it was protection, but your mother was right. It was control. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Rachel. The apology broke something in her chest. All the anger, all the fear, all the confusion of the past 12 hours crashed over her in a wave. She wanted to hate him, wanted to scream at him for the life he'd stolen, for the mother she'd lost, for the normalcy that had never been real. But looking at his face, seeing genuine remorse for maybe the first time in his life, she couldn't find the hate. Only exhaustion. I don't forgive you, she said quietly. I don't know if I ever will. But I understand why you did it. And that's going to have to be enough for now. Giovanni nodded, accepting the boundary. What will you do? With the evidence, with your life, with everything. Rachel looked around the bank. At Morrison, unconscious but alive. At Isabella, who'd risked everything on an elaborate double cross. At Vivian, wounded but unbroken. At Vincenzo, who'd taken bullets and betrayals and still stood beside her. At the Castellano soldiers, their empire shattered, their future uncertain. At her father, finally honest but too late to change the past. I'm going to do what my mother asked, she said. I'm going to choose. Not because I'm backed into a corner or manipulated or desperate, but because I finally can. She picked up the briefcase of evidence. We give the files to Agent Rebecca. Let the FBI do their job. We don't become the thing we're fighting against. We don't replace one criminal empire with another. Rachel, Vivian started. But, Rachel continued, we also don't walk away. The families on this list, the soldiers, the corrupt cops, they get one chance. They cooperate with the FBI, or they face the full weight of both the law and every enemy they made along the way. We make it clear. The protection the Castellanos offered is gone. Their only safety now is truth. She turned to Giovanni. And you turn yourself in. Properly. You give the FBI everything they need to clean up the mess you helped create. You serve whatever time they give you. You pay for your crimes. You're sentencing your father to life in prison. I'm giving you the chance to finally do the right thing. What you do with it is your choice. She softened slightly. But I'll visit. Once a month. We'll talk. Try to build something real instead of this constructed fantasy. If you want that. Giovanni's eyes glistened. I want that more than anything. Agent Rebecca stepped forward. Ms. DeMarco, if you're willing to testify to help us understand these files, we can offer full immunity. You and everyone who helped tonight. Clean slate. Everyone except my father. He's already negotiated his own deal. 20 years minimum security, in exchange for testimony against every remaining Castellano associate and full cooperation with our investigation into police corruption. Rachel looked at Giovanni in surprise. You agreed to that. Before I ever left custody. The moment I heard you were alive, I knew what I had to do. Not for me. For you. So you could finally be free of all this. He smiled sadly. Your mother would be proud of the woman you've become. I know I am. Sirens wailed in the distance. Backup, ambulances, the whole machinery of law enforcement descending. Vincenzo touched Rachel's arm. We should go. Before this turns into a media circus. Go where? I have a place. Quiet. Nothing like the penthouse. Just a cabin upstate where I go when the world gets too loud. He hesitated. You could come with me. Just for a few days. Let the dust settle. Figure out what comes next. What about your empire? Your business? I'm tired, Rachel. Tired of the violence, the paranoia, the endless war. Maybe it's time I choose too. Choose something different. Something better. His hand found hers. Choose you. If you'll have me. She looked at this man who'd watched her pour coffee for 3 months. Who'd memorized her habits and protected her from shadows. Who'd taken bullets and betrayals and still stood offering her a future. He wasn't perfect. Wasn't safe. Wasn't the fairy tale prince who'd save her from everything. He was broken and dangerous and probably had a dozen enemies who'd come looking eventually. But he was real. And he was hers if she wanted him. Your cabin have running water? She asked. He smiled. And electricity. I'm not completely uncivilized. Then yeah, I'll come with you. For a few days. Maybe longer. We'll see. Isabella cleared her throat. Before you two ride off into the sunset, we should probably mention one small detail. Everyone looked at her. The Castellano Empire doesn't just disappear. There's territory, assets, legitimate businesses that'll need oversight. Someone's going to fill that vacuum. Better it's someone we trust than some new monster. You volunteering? Vivian asked. Maybe. With the right partners. Isabella looked at Giovanni. Someone who knows how these families work. Someone who's spent 24 years thinking about redemption. Someone who's about to have a lot of time to plan from a minimum security cell. Giovanni caught on immediately. You want me to help you build something legitimate? Use the Castellano assets to create actual businesses. Something that helps the community instead of bleeds it. It's either that or watch someone worse take over. Choice. Redemption or irrelevance. Agent Rebecca looked skeptical. The FBI can't officially endorse. Then unofficially endorse it. You're going to seize Castellano assets anyway. Let us help distribute them in ways that actually help people. Think of it as community restitution. Isabella's smile was sharp. Unless you'd prefer a power vacuum and 3 new crime families fighting over the scraps. Rebecca sighed. I'll run it up the chain. No promises. The ambulance arrived. Paramedics rushing to Morrison. They loaded him carefully, one of them confirming he'd live if they moved fast. As they carried him out, his eyes opened briefly, finding Rachel. Emma, he whispered. Safe, Rachel said. Your daughter is safe. Your hero detective. You saved a lot of lives tonight. He smiled just a little before the morphine pulled him under. More police arrived. Agent Rebecca took control of the scene, her team securing evidence, processing the Castellano soldiers, beginning the long work of dismantling an empire. Giovanni was cuffed again, but gently this time. As they led him toward a federal transport, he stopped in front of Rachel. I meant what I said. I'm proud of you. Your mother would be too. I know. I'll see you next month. First visiting day. I'll be waiting. They took him away. Vivian leaned against Isabella, both women exhausted and bleeding but alive. This is insane. All of it. 6 hours ago we were defending a penthouse. Now we're negotiating the future of organized crime with the FBI. Just another Tuesday, Isabella said dryly. You need a hospital. I need a drink and a bed. In that order. Agent Rebecca approached Rachel one final time. We'll need your full statement. Probably several days of debriefing. But for tonight you're free to go. Just stay available. I will. Thank you. For believing Morrison. For helping my father when you didn't have to. I'm not doing it for him. I'm doing it because the system failed too many people. And maybe this is a chance to start fixing it. Rebecca handed her a card. My direct line. You need anything you call. And Ms. DeMarco. What you did tonight, stopping Antonio, standing up when you could have run, that took real courage. It took desperation. Same thing sometimes. The bank finally emptied. Just Rachel and Vincenzo remaining, standing in the wreckage of the night. You ready? He asked. Rachel looked at the bloodstains on the marble. At the bullet holes in the walls. At the place where she'd killed a man and changed her life forever. No. But I don't think I ever will be. So let's go anyway. They walked out into the pre-dawn darkness. Vincenzo's car waited, battered but functional. As they drove away from the city, Rachel watched the skyline shrink in the rearview mirror. Somewhere in those buildings, her old apartment sat empty. Her uniform still hanging in the closet. Her life from yesterday gathering dust. That Rachel Marlowe was gone. The waitress who counted tips twice and looked over her shoulder. The victim who let fear make her choices. In her place was someone new. Someone harder. Someone who'd stared down monsters and discovered she could be monstrous too when necessary. She didn't know if that was growth or damage. Maybe both. You okay? Vincenzo asked, his hand finding hers. Ask me in a few days. When my hands stop shaking and I can sleep without seeing Antonio's face. It gets easier. The first kill. Eventually you learn to live with it. How long did it take you? I'll let you know when it happens. They drove in comfortable silence, the city fading behind them, the mountains rising ahead. Rachel closed her eyes and felt, for the first time in her life, something like peace. It wouldn't last. She knew that. There would be trials, testimony, enemies who hadn't gotten the memo that the war was over. There would be nightmares and guilt and moments where she questioned every choice. But right now, in this moment, she was alive. She was free. And she was choosing her own path. Even if that path led somewhere dark and uncertain and dangerous. It was hers. Finally, completely, terrifyingly hers. And that was enough. 3 months later. The cabin Vincenzo promised turned out to be more than a cabin. 2 stories, stone fireplace. Wraparound porch overlooking a lake so still it reflected the sky like a mirror. No neighbors for miles. No gunfire. No looking over shoulders. Just quiet. Rachel stood on that porch now, coffee in hand, watching the sun climb over the mountains. The bruises on her face had faded weeks ago, leaving only the faintest yellow shadow under her left eye. The split lip was fully healed. The broken ribs no longer ached when she breathed. The external wounds had closed. The internal ones were taking longer. You're up early, Vincenzo said from the doorway. His shoulder had healed well, though he still favored it on cold mornings. The scar would be permanent, a reminder of the night everything changed. Couldn't sleep. Too many dreams. Bad ones. Not anymore. Just busy. My mind won't stop replaying everything. He joined her at the railing, bringing his own coffee. Black, no sugar. She'd learned his preferences the same way he'd learned hers. Proximity and attention. The building blocks of intimacy. Agent Rebecca called yesterday while you were in town, he said. The trials are moving forward. Morrison's testimony is holding up. They've arrested 47 people so far, including 6 police captains and 2 judges. And my father. Sentenced last week. 20 years like they promised. But he'll be eligible for parole in 12 with good behavior. Rebecca thinks he'll actually serve less. He's been too cooperative, giving them everything they need. Rachel sipped her coffee, processing. 20 years. Her father would be 70 when he got out if he got out. An old man paying for the sins of his youth. I'm going to visit him next week, she said. First time since the sentencing. I keep putting it off. You don't have to go if you're not ready. I'll never be ready. But my mother asked me to give him a chance. So I will. Not for him. For her. Vincenzo's hand found the small of her back, a gesture that had become second nature. Touch without demand. Presence without pressure. Vivian called too. The community center opened yesterday. The one they're building with the Castellano assets. How's it look? Like hope in a neighborhood that forgot what that felt like. Free childcare, job training, legal aid. Everything those families needed and never got. He smiled. Your father's been designing the programs from prison. Apparently he's got strong opinions about after-school activities. Despite everything, Rachel laughed. Of course he does. Control freak until the end. Isabella says he's actually good at it. The community organizing. Turns out the skills that made him a good crime boss translate pretty well to legitimate philanthropy. Who knew? They stood in comfortable silence, watching the lake. A heron landed at the shore, hunting for breakfast in the shallows. I got a job offer, Rachel said quietly. Agent Rebecca wants me to consult. Help them understand how criminal enterprises work from the inside. Talk to victims who are too scared to come forward. Be a bridge between their world and the FBI's. Vincenzo went very still. What did you tell her? That I'd think about it. That I needed to talk to you first. Why? It's your decision. Because if I take it, we can't hide up here anymore. We'd have to go back. Face everything we've been avoiding. And I don't know if I'm strong enough for that yet. He turned her to face him, his hands gentle on her shoulders. You killed a crime boss. Dismantled an empire. Sent your own father to prison. You're the strongest person I've ever met, Rachel. The question isn't whether you're strong enough. It's whether you want to. Do you want to go back? Vincenzo looked out at the lake, at the mountains, at the peace they'd built in this isolated pocket of the world. I want whatever gives you the most life. If that's staying here, we stay. If it's going back and fighting for people who need help, we go back. I spent 15 years building an empire that meant nothing. I'd rather spend the next 15 building a life that means everything. With me. With you. Always with you. Rachel leaned into him, feeling his heartbeat against her cheek. Steady. Real. Worse. Okay, she said. Let's go back. Not to the city. Somewhere smaller. Somewhere we can actually make a difference. And I'll take Rebecca's offer. Part-time. Enough to help, not enough to consume us. You sure? No. But I'm choosing anyway. That's what we do now, right? Choose the uncertain thing and figure it out as we go. He kissed the top of her head. Seems to be working so far. Her phone buzzed. A text from Aunt Marie, who'd been relocated to Vermont under a new identity. They'd started talking again 2 months ago, carefully rebuilding trust that had been shattered by lies and violence. The text was simple. Thinking of you today. Love you, baby girl. Rachel smiled and texted back. Love you too. Another text came in. Unknown number. Her stomach clenched, old instincts flaring. She opened it. Ms. DeMarco. My name is Father Thomas Riley. I'm a priest at St. Catherine's in Queens. I have information about your mother's death. Information the police missed. If you want the truth, meet me at the church this Sunday. Come alone. The phone trembled in her hand. Vincenzo read over her shoulder, his body tensing. It could be a trap. Or it could be real. Your mother's case was closed. Car accident. What more could there be? I don't know. But I need to find out. He studied her face, seeing the determination there. The need for answers that had driven her since the night she learned her entire life was constructed fiction. Then we find out together. Not alone. Never alone again. The text said. I don't care what the text said. We're partners now. Your fights are my fights. Your truth is my truth. He pulled her close. Besides, I'm not letting you walk into a church in Queens without backup. Have you seen Queens? It's dangerous. She laughed despite the fear curling in her stomach. You're ridiculous. You love me anyway. I do. The words came easier now. She'd said them for the first time 2 weeks ago, in the dark, in bed, when vulnerability felt safer than daylight. He'd said them back immediately, like he'd been holding them in for months. Maybe he had. They went inside to pack. Not much. They'd been living simply up here. Clothes, books, the essentials. Everything else they'd left behind in their old lives. As Rachel folded her few belongings, her hand brushed against something in the bottom of her bag. She pulled it out. Her old waitress uniform from the diner. She'd grabbed it that first night without thinking. Some instinct to hold onto the last piece of her former self. She held it up to the light. Stained with coffee and grease and the sweat of 1,000 shifts. The name tag still pinned to the chest. Rachel. Not DeMarco. Not Marlowe even. Just Rachel. You keeping that? Vincenzo asked. She thought about it. About the girl who'd worn this uniform every day. Who'd smiled through split lips and counted tips with shaking hands. Who'd survived on hope and kindness because she had nothing else. That girl had been brave in ways Rachel was only beginning to understand. Brave enough to get up every morning. Brave enough to be kind when the world was cruel. Brave enough to keep going when giving up would have been easier. Yeah, she said. I'm keeping it. To remember. Remember what? That I was strong before I ever held a gun. Before I ever had a father's empire or a mobster's protection. I survived on my own for 27 years. This uniform is proof. She folded it carefully and placed it back in her bag. They loaded the car as the sun climbed higher. The cabin would stay. Vincenzo owned it free and clear, a refuge if they ever needed to disappear again. But for now they were choosing visibility. Choosing to engage with the world instead of hiding from it. The drive back took 4 hours. They stopped at a diner halfway, an almost perfect mirror of Sal's place. Same vinyl booths, same coffee that tasted like it had been sitting since morning, same tired waitress who looked like she carried the weight of the world on her shoulders. Rachel left a $100 tip on a $12 breakfast. The waitress came running after them in the parking lot. "Miss, you made a mistake. This is too much." "Not a mistake," Rachel said. "You work hard. You deserve it. I can't accept this." "Yes, you can. And when you're having a bad day, when some customer is awful or your feet hurt or you feel invisible, remember that someone saw you. Someone knows what you do matters." The waitress's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you. You have no idea what this means." "I have every idea." They drove away, leaving the waitress staring at the money like it was a miracle. "You're going to do that everywhere we go, aren't you?" Vincenzo asked. "Find struggling waitresses and tip them small fortunes. I have a trust fund now. My father's legitimate assets, held in my name. Might as well use it for something good. You're remarkable, you know that? I'm trying to be. That's all any of us can do." They reached the city by early afternoon. Not their city. A smaller one. 2 hours north. Population 50,000. Big enough to have crime. Small enough that one person could actually make a difference. The apartment Vivian had arranged was modest. 3rd floor walk-up, 1 bedroom, a kitchen that had seen better days. But the windows let in good light, and the neighborhood felt alive in a way that mattered. "Home," Rachel said, testing the word. "For now. We can find somewhere better if you want." "No. This is perfect. This is real." They spent the afternoon unpacking, making the space theirs. Rachel put her mother's photograph on the nightstand. Vincenzo hung his father's old watch on the wall, a reminder of the man he'd been before the violence consumed him. As evening fell, Rachel stood at the window, watching people walk past. Families, couples, people living normal lives with normal problems. She'd never be one of them. The things she'd done, the blood on her hands, the empire she'd helped dismantle, it all marked her as something other. But maybe that was okay. Maybe the world needed people who existed in the space between normal and monstrous. People who understood both sides. People who could build bridges instead of walls. Her phone rang. "Agent. Rachel. Need you. We've got a witness." 16-year-old girl. She saw her brother murdered by a gang, but she's too scared to talk. "Won't trust any of my agents. But she might trust you. Someone who's been where she is." Rachel looked at Vincenzo, who nodded. "I'll be there in an hour," she said. "Send me the address." She hung up and grabbed her jacket. "First day on the job?" Vincenzo asked. "Looks like it. You coming?" "Always." They headed out into the city, into the work, into the life they were building from the wreckage of everything that had come before. It wouldn't be easy. There would be setbacks and failures and moments where the darkness felt too heavy to carry. But they'd carry it together. And that made all the difference. 6 months after that, Rachel stood in the visiting room of a federal prison, waiting for her father. They'd fallen into a rhythm. Once a month like she'd promised. The conversations were still awkward, still loaded with everything unsaid. But they were trying. Giovanni appeared behind the glass. Older now, grayer. Prison had worn him down in ways violence never had. He picked up the phone. She picked up hers. "You look good," he said. "Happy. I'm getting there. The work with the FBI is hard, but it's good. We're helping people. Really helping them. That's all I ever wanted for you. A chance to choose who you become. I know. I'm starting to understand that. They talked for the allotted 30 minutes. About the community center, about the families they were helping, about Vivian's plan to expand into 3 more neighborhoods. As visiting hours ended, Giovanni said, "Your mother would be proud. Not of me, but of you. Of the woman you've become despite everything I did. She'd be proud of you too. For finally trying." "You think so?" "I know so. She loved you, Dad. Even at the end. Even when it cost her everything." It was the first time she'd called him Dad. The word hung between them, fragile and real. Giovanni's eyes glistened. "See you next month." "See you next month." Rachel left the prison and found Vincenzo waiting in the car. He'd stopped coming inside after the second visit, giving her space to build her relationship with Giovanni on her own terms. "How was it?" he asked as she climbed in. "Good. Hard. But good." They drove home through the city, through the life they were building one choice at a time. That night, as Rachel lay in bed, Vincenzo asleep beside her, she thought about Father Riley's text. They'd gone to the church the week after receiving it. The priest had been real. The information had been real. Her mother's accident hadn't been ordered by the Castellanos. It had been someone else. Someone her father had crossed decades ago. Someone who was still out there watching, waiting. Someone who now knew exactly where to find Giovanni DeMarco's daughter. Father Riley had given her a name before he died. Killed in a mugging 3 days after their meeting. The police called it random violence. Rachel knew better. The name was written on a piece of paper, hidden in her dresser drawer. Marcus Delacroix. She'd looked him up. International arms dealer. Ghost in the criminal underworld. A man so dangerous that even Antonio Castellano had feared him. And according to Father Riley's dying words, the man who'd actually killed her mother. Rachel had a choice to make. Tell agent. Let the FBI handle it. Stay in the life she was building. Or hunt him herself. Use everything she'd learned. Finish what her father started. She looked at Vincenzo, sleeping peacefully beside her. At the life they'd fought so hard to build. At the choice between justice and vengeance. Tomorrow she'd decide. But tonight she'd let herself have this. The quiet. Peace. The man she loved breathing steadily beside her. Whatever came next, they'd face it together. And that was enough. Now. Outside her window, a figure stood in the shadows across the street. Watching. Waiting. A man with silver hair and a smile like a blade. Marcus Delacroix had waited 20 years. He could wait a little longer. But not much. The game was just beginning. And this time, Giovanni DeMarco's daughter would learn the truth about who really controlled the board. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey, my wonderful friend. I hope Rachel and Vincenzo's story touched your heart the way it touched mine while writing it. If you enjoyed this story, please let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what moment hit you the hardest. Your thoughts mean everything to me. Until next time, take care of yourself. Remember, we're all stronger than we think, and sometimes the bravest thing we can do is choose our own path, no matter how uncertain it might be. See you in the next story.